welcome back to another episode of Tuxedo Time.
Where we wear tuxedos. Podcast. Oh, I
Damn
messed it up.
We did it. We nailed it in the last episode.
Well, it's where we wear tuxedos, which is what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
And it is
time.
Podcast edition. Wilderness edition.
Wilderness. Okay, so in the last episode, we recorded outside. In this episode, we're also recording outside, but we've leveled up the outdoor setup.
Let's just paint this picture here.
Paint it, Chris.
We've got some lanterns for ambiance.
Yep.
We have a candle in some glass tube.
Okay, those are called lanterns. Those are called, wait. Yeah,
Look,
those are called
this is a descriptive video here, okay?
candle lanterns.
Okay, fine. We have a lantern, a candle in a lantern.
2 candles and
And
2
then
lanterns.
to my left, we have a propane fire pit, which is not only providing nice, gorgeous light, but is also warming up the space.
You know when we go, like sometimes you go on vacation and you stay at like a nice hotel and you're like in a warmer climate and you're out in like the patio areas and they have these propane fire pits around?
Yep.
And people are always using them. You never get to like enjoy them because there's people have already claimed their spots.
This is Hotel Becky and Chris.
This is.
Podcast edition.
Man, what a mood.
It's nice.
What a
yeah, and it's
mood.
blue hour right now.
Yeah.
It's past sunset, but it's still light out, and everything's very bluish. But then
And-
the warm amber from the candles and the fire pit. It's very nice.
It's still warm out too. I think it's time to like level up the patio. The whole patio needs to be replaced, but we're not going to do that this summer. But I think I need to go to like the hardware store and get some plants and just like tidy up and set up. We need a barbecue. Chris, we need a barbecue.
It's true.
We've been cooking so much since the pandemic.
Correction. You've been cooking so much.
I've
since
been
the
cooking
pandemic.
so much since the pandemic.
Let me tell you, actually, I think I remember of saying this to our buddies that growing up in the patriarchy,
Okay.
I always expected when I got married, my wife would cook meals.
Yep.
And then we got married,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Your wife didn't cook
realized
meals.
that my wife would not cook
You
meals.
realize your wife was a piece of shit.
It's okay. Whatever, 2020.
Thank you for accepting me the way I was.
And you have redeeming qualities.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then now the pandemic hit, 2020, the world got flipped upside down, and now all of a sudden I have a wife that cooks.
It's so fucking crazy.
But cooks well.
Thank you. Thanks. I've been practicing. So
And I don't mean that as surprise and any disrespect.
I'm
but,
surprised.
I mean, comparing where we were before,
Yeah.
or where you were before, to where we are now, I haven't changed at all. I'm still the same piece of shit.
Listen, I make you learn some stuff sometimes.
But yeah, you've been cooking like gourmet meals every night, like
Well-
that are just as good as any restaurant that we'd go to.
Well, thank you. That means
Fabulous,
a lot.
fabulous dishes.
Thanks, babe.
And I think the more impressive thing is that you do it, most of it now, just be like, I'll just throw a little hint. Like, you're not really following
recipes.
recipes. It's just kind of like, I'll make a roux here, and then add some cheese to this. And now, boom, got a cheese sauce.
Cheese makes everything better. Let's be honest.
Truth. Yeah. But anyway, no, it's
Thank
good.
you. Here's the thing. When you have somebody who's super neurotic about germs and viruses and shit, sorry, we're both sipping tea right now, and a large bug flew into my tea, and Chris switched with me. So now he's drinking bug juice tea. Cool.
With a bit extra protein.
Yeah. So back to what we were saying. When you have a wife who is as
Hey, what do you think
neurotic.
the transmission rate on a mosquito of COVID-19 is?
Oh my God, I didn't think about that. Is that a
I'll
thing?
tell you, it's 0.
Okay. Let me finish. When you have a wife who is neurotic and obsessive about germs, and then a pandemic hits where people are getting sick, the result is that person, your wife, is afraid to leave the house and feels like COVID is on every surface. So we used to eat out a lot. There's a moth on my pop screen. We used to eat out a lot. Pandemic hit. I panicked, bought a lot of macaroni and cheese and tin stuff and didn't really know what to make, and then got really sick of eating like shit. So I decided to start cooking. And I started, you guys out there in the universe on Twitter suggested me Sam the Cooking Guy, and he changed my life. So I started watching Sam the Cooking Guy because you guys recommended him on Twitter, and he swears a lot and he's Canadian. So obviously I related to that.
Yeah, that's pretty much right up your alley.
It is. Yeah, it was
He's
perfect.
really funny, actually.
He's funny, and his recipes are fantastic, and they're not fussy. It's like, throw this in here, throw this in here. It doesn't measure anything. It's just like, you just watch how much he puts in stuff, and then you just do it.
It's great because I feel like by you watching those, that is teaching you how to cook rather than just teaching you how to follow a recipe.
Dude, I've learned how to trim a pork butt, debone a pork butt, trim an entire beef tenderloin. Like, not just the little piece you get, like the big Jesus piece. the $100 one. I haven't done it yet, but I learned. Like, it's crazy. I'm learning so much shit. So that, and then also like hanging out with Iz and Johnny, like they're really into cooking, and I learned like a bunch of meals that we eat a lot, like certain types of breakfast tacos and stuff. Like I learned from them. Delicious. I love eating.
I love eating too. I
Yeah.
love eating what you create.
The problem is that people on YouTube think I'm pregnant, but I just gained weight because I'm eating a lot. Not
The
pregnant.
old COVID-19 pounds.
Quarantine 15. Anyway, what is this episode about? We were talking about food. Oh, I'm hungry now.
I don't know, but I will end off by saying I don't think that the incidence of fomite transmission on takeout food is something that's very easily quantifiable.
Okay.
And so fomite transmission means transmission of viral particles on surfaces like doorknobs, handles, tables, packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And there are studies that have shown that viral particles can live for up to a few days on hard surfaces.
That's terrifying.
But that's like an ideal lab condition. And I think I said up to, don't quote me on these numbers, but up to 24 hours on cardboard. But I think in real life, you're going to have a lot less chance of that. So,
Well, we started after like a few months. We started getting takeout every now and then. First, it was like, oh, we want McDonald's. We broke down and had McDonald's once, and it was after like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got tacos a couple of weeks later, and then
Yep.
we had wings. So I feel like we're definitely not eating out as much as we used to. Like we were eating out probably 4 or 5 times a week, which is
Yeah.
excessive. But now we probably eat out once every 2 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, but it's not an all or nothing thing. It's not like, oh, you broke down and ate out once, you're all of a sudden going to be bombarded with risk.
Yeah.
It's like you eat out less, you take on less risk
Mm-hmm.
because you're trying to protect against that stochastic event of transmission, which is not guaranteed.
Right.
So increasing the number of times that you eat out would increase the probability, but it's not like eating out more will make you sicker. It's not like a dose-dependent relationship.
Right.
Anyway,
I almost feel guilty every time I eat out. I'm like, what if that was the time that I touched something and got COVID? And then what if I regret it? And
and then you thought, what if you give it to me? And then you thought, oh my God, I killed my husband.
That's
Those are
what-
all the
yes.
thoughts that go through your head.
True. But
Do I
anyway,
know how you think or do I know how you think?
you know how I think, baby. Anyway, today's episode is not about COVID or cooking or eating out. Today's episode is about computers, but we're not techie people. Well, Chris is techie. My friends here like to call me Techie Becky, but I feel like
Techie Becky.
I'm in that group. I think I'm techie, but in the group that I'm in now with Chris, I am not techie.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
The group, aka marriage.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about computers,
And
but
also the YouTube space.
what?
The YouTube space that we're in.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends that are very tech oriented.
Correct.
And you could say that we loosely overlap in that realm.
Yeah. That's
We
the funny
use
thing.
tech.
We use tech, but we don't review tech.
But our channel's not about tech.
Right. Our channel is about our life. And same thing about this podcast. It's about all the things. And during our life, sometimes technology happens. And during our life, sometimes there's some really stressful moments that require new technology, which spark an idea for a video/podcast, which is what today's podcast
That's
is.
exactly what it is. Before
Yeah.
we start that, though, I'm looking at you right now behind this pop screen, which is a big circle.
Yeah.
And you look like that Pokemon that looks like a flower like this.
What?
Or that meme with the
What do you-
lol meme with the mouth that's like a big circle.
Oh, because my pop screen?
Because your pop screen looks like a big circle.
Oh my God.
Like, look at me and picture that this pop screen is a mouth. I can't unsee it now. I'm sorry. I can't look at you.
Stop.
All right, sorry. Yes. So this podcast is about tech.
Yeah, kind of. But listen, if you're not into tech, stick around because we're idiots. So hopefully you'll have a few lols next,
Yeah.
you know?
So we should approach this from the standpoint of assuming that people don't know what the new Mac Pro is.
Okay.
And by new, I mean the 2019 Mac Pro.
So the 2019 Mac Pro came out in 2019, and Webster's
Oh my
Dictionary
God.
defines Mac Pro. No kidding.
2019 Mac Pro, noun.
Noun.
The
Okay.
computer that was released thousands of days later than the previous iteration that was released in 2013.
Now, we're not accidentally saying Mac Pro and leaving out the MacBook Pro.
No.
We're talking about the Mac Pro desktop
Tower.
computer, not the MacBook Pro, not the iMac or the iMac Pro. We're
'Cause
talking
everything
about
has
the
Pro in the name now.
Yeah, we're talking about the cheese grater Mac Pro desktop computer that Apple neglected for 8 years. Longer than 8 years. Because the trash can was a really poor.
Well, 6 years because it went from
Execution.
2013 to 2019, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Pro line of desktop that Apple creates. And to go back historically, when I was doing video in the early 2000s, I was using a Quicksilver G4, which was
is like basically a Mac Pro before Mac Pros.
right. Yeah. Then the Mac Pro came out, and that was like Then it was the G5, and I
Yes.
skipped that. And then the Mac Pro came out in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
and then I jumped on and got that, and that kind of was the G5 was kind of the start of the cheese grater look to
Yeah.
the silver tower with the holes in it. But the 2008 Mac Pro, I think, was the first switch to Intel chips,
Yes.
and I jumped on that one, got that, and that was an amazing computer for so long because that made it all the way till 2013, which is 5 years in computer time.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you and I had moved in together. We were cohabitating, and you were using my computer primarily, and then it got too old and slow. So we bought a 2013 Mac Pro for you, which was the trash can, that black cylinder.
At the time, we were doing some video work and some pretty heavy photo work.
Right.
So we deemed necessary. We
Yeah,
needed the power.
you were running your company, Bold Creative, basically, which was, well, technically our company.
Yeah.
But you were doing primarily photo work, design work, some video work.
Yeah. And now I was doing like commercial design work. So I was designing these like massive billboards, so let's rewind for a second. My computer history, when I graduated or when I was in school for graphic design, I had a 17-inch MacBook Pro. It was like maxed out. I had a lot of issues with it. I ended up getting it replaced, and that was great. I replaced my 17-inch MacBook Pro with a 13-inch MacBook Pro, but these files that I was working on, these massive billboards, were huge Photoshop files, and just like my computer could not handle it, which is why I started using your computer to begin with. And then eventually we got the Mac Pro because I was
Right.
doing that stuff.
So we were always kind of on board with Apple's Pro and high-level desktop. But then they went from 2013 to 2019, just didn't release anything in that sector. I think that's probably one of the longest they've ever gone in any product line before upgrading.
I was ready to give up on them, man.
Yeah. And finally, well, I did give up on them.
I know you did. You went PC.
I've got a PC.
Yeah.
I have a PC laptop. So fast forward to 2019, they released the Mac Pro, and it's highly configurable, but the price tag is like exorbitant. It's through the roof.
The maxed out Mac Pro with top of the line everything is listed at like $50,000. So
50,000 US. I think it's over that.
yeah. So of course, when they released this computer, all of the headlines were like $50,000 Mac Pro, and all of these tech YouTubers were getting the $50,000 Mac Pro to review.
And
Which
what was the entry level? Like, what's the bottom of the barrel configuration?
I think it was like
6,000? Is that where it starts
I think it
at?
was like 6,000 or 7,000 bottom. But here's the thing: if you're a person who wants a professional Mac desktop and you don't have $50,000 to spend, it was impossible to find reviews on this Mac Pro with specs that a normal user would
with
want,
like a realistic
with
configuration.
a realistic configuration, with a realistic price tag. Who's paying $50,000? So here's the thing also that I saw. A lot of people were saying if you're a YouTuber, you don't need a Mac Pro. Not like the maxed out one, just like straight up, this computer is not for you because it's expensive and it's too powerful, you'll never use.
Debatable.
Which, yeah, I disagree. Hard disagree.
And you pay a premium, and everybody knows you pay a premium for Apple hardware.
Yeah.
You're going to pay more, apples to apples, you're going to pay, no pun intended, you're going to pay more for Apple hardware than you will for an equivalent spec'd computer in PC land.
Right.
But what you're paying for is the familiarity and the ease of use of the operating system, if that's what you're into.
Mm-hmm.
And you're paying for things just working more smoothly. And I will attest to that 100%. I've straddled both sides of the PC Mac spectrum for my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I started off on an Apple in the 94. I then switched to a Sony Vaio computer, which ran Windows in the late 90s, early 2000s. I then switched back to Mac or OS 10 with the Quicksilver G4, and I stayed Apple all the way until they neglected their pro community. And I ended up doing a partnership actually with NVIDIA, and they supplied me with a PC laptop.
Which was actually perfect.
Which
because
works out perfectly, 'cause
You
I'm
were
always
like
chirping you.
hounding me, yeah, for like a year, and I was like, just get your own freaking computer, and you just like never pulled the trigger.
Well, it's like kind of those things where like you did all the editing and computer work in our relationship, and
Yeah.
I never really had a need to have my dedicated own computer.
Well, not until you started flying FPV,
Right. Yeah.
and then
kinda,
that's when it kind of changed.
right.
Sorry if you could hear that.
But anyway,
Yeah. So where are we going with this?
so where we're going is that Apple finally updated their Pro line of their desktop computer, finally after so many years,
Mm-hmm.
and they came out with a computer that was more expensive than any computer they historically have ever released.
You could buy 3 cars for the
Yeah.
cost of a maxed out Mac Pro.
Right.
That's like more than a down payment on a house.
Right. So our Mac Pro, where did you settle? How did you figure all that out?
Okay, so I looked for reviews to try to figure out baseline, like what was the absolute baseline that I could get in a Mac Pro without spending too much money, but that was still not cutting corners. That would still give me enough power and juice to like do the processes that I wanted to do. Because
Yeah.
my biggest fear was that I was going to spend a shitload of money on getting this desktop, but not spend enough money in getting the best upgrades, and then I'd have issues all over again.
Right. Or you'd spend like twice as much as an iMac Pro, but get performance that was the same as an iMac Pro.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I watched Matty Poya's video. He ended up spending about 20 grand on his Mac Pro.
Is that 20 grand Canadian?
Canadian. And then I found one other video. Every single video that I looked at were complete spec'd out $50,000 Mac. So anyway, I ended up finding a video. I can't remember who it was who did it, but it was basically a $10,000 Mac Pro versus a $10,000 iMac Pro. And he basically did render times and did some tests and basically said like the Mac Pro is better, it's faster, but you're getting a screen with the iMac Pro, so it makes more sense, which
Yeah, that's another piece of value you do get.
so anyway, I ended up purchasing a new Mac Pro. I've been putting it off. Finally, we'll tell you why we did it in a few minutes because we haven't told that story.
So the specs on your Mac Pro, you got the 16-core, 3.2 gigahertz processor. You left it at a base 32 gigabytes of RAM with the intent of upgrading with third-party RAM later. And you went the middle of the road with the internal storage at 2 terabytes solid-state internal storage. And that was it. You also got Apple Care.
Always get Apple Care when you buy Apple computers. I've had so many bad experiences with actually my first experience with Apple, I had a terrible experience with my 17-inch MacBook Pro that was broken, and then they tried to give me a refurbished one.
Right. You were like, let me get this straight. I bought a brand new computer and you
It's
guys
like
want
$3 grand.
replace it with a refurbished model
Yeah,
because
no.
this is a lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they finally just gave you a new unit.
Yeah.
So are we going prices on how much you spent?
Okay. Should we just put the transparency hat on?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, because it pissed me off. I couldn't find any prices in any specs.
Well, your computer without factoring the third-party RAM came to, after tax, $11,740.65. That's including Apple Care.
Okay, so that's nowhere near the $50,000 that everybody was reviewing.
Right. And how much is the RAM?
So we got the base 32 gigs of RAM in the Mac from Apple.
Right.
The
but
upgrade
we took
to-
that out and we put in.
We did. We took that out and we put in 192 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
How many sticks and how big were they? 32 gig sticks?
Six 32 gig sticks, and that was $1,229.99. So I think it was like $5 grand to upgrade it through Apple or something, or $3 grand. It was like a significant amount more. So we just opened it up when we got it here, and we upgraded the RAM. So
that's a grand total of $12,970. So 13 grand is basically.
right, and we got the 2 terabytes internal because we knew we had excessive RAID storage. We also picked up an 84 terabyte Thunderbase 6 RAID 5 6 drive storage bay from Otherworld Computing. Not sponsored, paid for all of it.
Right.
But we do like Otherworld.
Yeah, we've been ordering them from years.
Yeah,
I
they've
remember
been great.
I feel like that I ordered from them back in the days of the 2008 Mac Pro.
Yeah, we've been using them for a long time. Their customer service is really good.
We were running up out of storage space on our existing RAID tower. We've gone through like 3 or so RAID towers, just filling them up. But it's funny because there was this phenomenon. I don't know if it was by a physicist or some computer science person, but they were basically saying, I don't remember the name of it either, but they were saying that as time progresses, storage capacities for computers increases in an exponential rate. So like for a given size on a chip, you can store more and more data.
Right.
And price will reflect that too. But I found that too. It's like every time we upgrade our storage unit, or
We get more for like the same cost.
we're paying the same amount. We're paying like roughly like $2,000, say,
Yeah.
for a tower plus full of hard drives. And given that constant price point, we're able to get more and more storage on every iteration. Because the first Thunderbay drive we bought was like, what, 12 terabytes?
Next one was 15 terabytes.
Okay.
Then we bought like a 40 something. And then the other day we bought the 84 terabyte.
And they've all been sort of in the roughly the same price range of like $2,000, give or take. I think we went a little bit higher on this one because it's a 6-bay RAID.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, if we had gone with the smaller one, we probably would have come in at like 50 or 60 terabytes.
Yeah.
And probably did it for 2,000-ish. Consider this a $13,000 Mac Pro, which
Yes.
is an insane amount of money because you can buy a car for that much.
However,
But simultaneously, it's not that much when you compare it to the fact that people are literally buying $50,000 Mac Pros.
my last Mac Pro lasted 6 years. So if you divide that cost over 6 years, math man, what's that? How much is that per year, assuming that your computer lasts for 6 years?
It's about like $2,000, a little over $2,000 a year.
Okay. So you divide that up over your monthly costs. How much is that? So it's like $200 a month. So when you break it down like that, it's not insane. A. B, I use my computer more than I drive a car, to the tune of like 20 million times. Not math. But I use my computer more than I drive a car. My computer makes me money.
Well,
I rely on my computer every single day
that's
to
the
make
thing.
content.
And here's the crux, because right now there are going to be listeners who are this is going to really rub them in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a big problem that you spent so much on a computer. However, the problem with that stems from the fact that a lot of people don't look at YouTube as a quote unquote real job.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a farmer
Yeah.
and you I spent 13 grand on a tractor, people would not bat an eye. It's a tool
That's true.
that is used to generate revenue. This is no different than a farmer buying a tractor than you as someone who's making your primary source of income on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another tool.
You're right. 100%.
You expense it, you make money from it, you get a return on your investment.
Yep.
End of story.
No, that's 100% true. It's funny, like, as I was doing the research, all of the bigger YouTubers were saying, like, oh, if you're a YouTuber, you don't need this computer. Which, if you can't afford that computer, don't get that computer. Don't put yourself in the hole for that computer because of whatever. If you can afford it, great. But I disagree, because I've tried a number of computers and we shoot everything in 4K. We're doing a lot of rendering of 360 clips, different codecs, massive raw file editing, and even just like multi-processing, of like running Lightroom, dumping cards, editing in Premiere at the same time. And
You weren't able to do that before.
I wasn't able to do that before. So yeah, like for me, it makes sense. Like a laptop is not powerful enough for my workflow. And a lot of people are just saying, oh, just get the MacBook Pro. Just get this. And I'm
Bish,
like,
I did that 2 years ago. That's a lot of thoughts that people who are quote unquote true filmmakers think. Like there's this unspoken or sometimes spoken inferiority complex, I'm going to label it as, where people who are traditional filmmakers don't view YouTube as a real medium and a real art form and as real filmmakers.
yeah.
Which obviously is BS,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see how it comes. It's like photographers don't think people who primarily display their work on Instagram as real photographers.
Right.
It's just the old hating the new.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cycle that is as prevalent as time itself. Like there's always going to be the old school hating the new school,
Right.
and it's going to continue on. You see it with people on social media who now are the people who hate TikTokers
Yeah.
or think that they're like, oh, this is not real social media. It's all BS.
But going back to the computers, I can't help but think that a lot of these people are saying, if you're a YouTuber, you don't need this because I'm more of a filmmaker than you, therefore you don't need as powerful a computer as I have.
Probably.
Right? I remember being there, like, when we talked about photography in one of our last podcasts, we were talking about switching from Canon to Sony, and that attitude as a photographer, like, that we used to have, like, when we started, it was almost like a little bit arrogant.
Yeah, you feel like you had to prove something.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like sometimes people have to prove something, but I feel like we're getting a little bit off topic, but
Yeah, we ranted now for the last 10 minutes.
maybe we'll cut that out. But yeah, so going back to the computer, Chris, you've always said, always buy the best computer that you can afford.
Correct.
Because if you're investing that much money, it's gonna, like, hopefully your investment will kind of hold up. If you're like over investing in your computer,
The way
because
I've-
technology is just going to get bigger and more difficult to handle on your computer, right?
That's what I've always thought, is that technology is rapidly changing. So get the best computer you can afford now, because it's only going to be outdated that much quicker if you don't buy the best you can afford. But the key in that whole statement is what you can afford.
Exactly.
Because if you're using it, say, from a business standpoint, you've got to realize that say your computer is good for 6 years and you spend $12,000 on it. That's $2,000 per year. So you have to be able to make back $2,000 per year in order to make it a worthwhile investment. But on top of that, it's kind of like a car. You drive it off the lot and you exponentially, your depreciation is exponential. So your
Right.
first year, you might lose half that value. So realistically, you've almost got to recoup the cost of half that computer in the first year. So I don't mean just go bust the bank and then throw, if you just be careless and buy a computer you can't afford. No, that's not the message here.
Well, that's why we were kind of doing that research to figure out how much do we have to spend to get what we need out of a computer.
Right.
Because we weren't about to drop
And is this
50 grand.
feasible? Yeah, because
Exactly.
the law of diminishing returns 100% applies to computers like it
Definitely.
does everything else in life, and especially in tech.
Yeah.
But, meaning that the more money, you throw exponentially more money at something and it only gets incrementally better. And I've said that before on multiple podcasts about multiple different topics, but it's so true with
So
anything
true.
computer related.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, would a $12,000 computer be twice as good as a $6,000 computer? No.
It's just a little bit better.
It's a little bit better. But is that little incremental improvement worth it to you? And you're the only person that can make that decision.
Yeah.
You can end up getting in this infinite loop of waiting because technology news cycles.
Bitch, I've been waiting for 6
Technology
years.
cycles are so fast in the grand scheme of things that you'll be waiting forever for that perfect computer or that perfect camera.
God, yeah.
Reference the Canon EOS RR5 and R6. They announced that months ago. And people are like, oh, you should wait for that. It's like,
No.
bitch, I've been waiting for Canon to release a good camera since 2016. But you know what I did? I didn't wait. We bought an A7S II in 2016, and it's been serving us strong for our entire YouTube career, essentially.
Yeah.
If we were waiting for Canon to release a camera, we'd still be waiting. We'd never have created anything.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer in if you need a tool now,
Buy what?
Buy it.
Yeah.
yeah, I do look at the product cycles, though. I say like, oh, okay, well, if it's, if you're looking at, was it macrumors.com? They have a really good product timeline that gives you like average update cycles, and it tells you if a product line is due for an update. So yeah, like if you're thinking about buying a new computer or a new iMac or a new iPad or whatever you're thinking about buying new, I'd look at that and just say, okay, well, if I can wait, if they're expecting one in the next couple months and I can wait that long, then maybe it's best to wait. But if you're in a situation like this,
Yeah.
where Becky's going to tell you exactly what happened, then you can't wait, and
Right.
the decision's made for you.
Exactly. As you guys may or may not have seen, we put up a short film on our YouTube channel called The City That Changed Our Life. It's linked in the show notes, beckyandchris.com/podcast episode, whatever number this podcast is. And so we were working on this film, and we were working with a sponsor, MusicBed. They've been incredible to work with. This episode is not sponsored, but just so you know the reference.
Full transparency.
Full transparency. So we were working on this film, and
So we're doing the film, plus we agreed to do one video on their channel, which is like a behind-the-scenes look at the film.
correct. So we're kind of doing 2 videos simultaneously. We'd been working on the film for about 4 months, and the tutorial we'd been working on for about a month, I'd say. So when you're working with brands, usually collectively we decide on an upload day, a deadline, and then we kind of create a work back schedule with, rough cut submissions so everyone can make sure that they're on the same page, that the content is okay with both parties, make sure there's no changes and things like that. So we kind of made a work back schedule with our original upload day, and then obviously the rough cut day, which is like about a week before, so we can make changes. So we were working on both these videos simultaneously, and they were pretty much both finished, edited, cut together, titles done, just about to go into color grading. And we had, was it like 3 or 4 days before it was due for rough cuts?
And mind you, you're cutting it together on your Mac 2013 Mac Pro.
Yeah, I was doing all this on my 2013
Old
Mac
faithful.
Pro. Yeah. Which so far has actually been half decent. Like, it struggles in some things, but it did what I needed to do for the most part. Plus or minus some rage blackouts. So we had about 4 days until the rough cuts were due, so we're about to bring it into color grading. I had a portion of the film color graded from previously, but I hadn't color graded like
Yeah, it was a
final
big
grading.
project.
It was a
You
big
had
project.
a lot to tweak.
Yeah. So I start color grading, and suddenly I start seeing like pixels on my screen.
Like splotches of
Blotches.
colors.
Yeah, it was like red, green, blue, every now and then like a purpley pink.
Like weird squares.
Weird squares all over my
Like
screen.
digital artifacts.
Yeah, and like flickering and some kind of like lines sometimes. There's a bunch of different stuff, but the digital pixely artifacts basically was what was happening most of the time. So that would happen, and then my computer would shut down. And I'd open it back up, and I'd try to color grade again.
Like it would just go black.
I'd get the pixels, and then everything would just freeze.
Okay. So your screen would just lock up.
Everything would lock up. And
It wasn't like the
sometimes
spinning pizza ball.
no pizza ball. Nothing.
And no
Couldn't use a
no
mouse.
kernel panic.
No kernel panic. Couldn't do the force quit thing, no kernel
Just
panic,
locked.
But if I was playing back the video, it would continue to play the audio from the video, but everything else was locked. So it was just playing the audio and I couldn't stop it. So I'd have to hard reboot the computer. So that happened, I would say 8 times in 1 hour, and I couldn't even get past like a portion of a clip to color grade. So it was extremely frustrating.
Meanwhile, your deadline is creeping up closer.
Closer, yes, correct.
And
So
I would always just kind of say, like, reach out to the brand and be like, hey, FYI, this happened. There's no way we could have foreseen this happening. Can we push the date a little bit?
no. My thoughts on that are like, it's not the brand's problem. It's my issue. And I have computers and I can figure it out. And if that means,
Admirable of you.
well, thank you. But you know, like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like not their problem. I don't want to go back and move a date with a brand unless I absolutely have to. And this could have been one of those moments, but I didn't want it to be one of those moments. And so I tortured myself, and
You did.
yeah, I did. It was
You tortured yourself so much that I was feeling bad for you because you were so stressed out.
yeah, well, and it wasn't like anybody's fault but the computer, you know. I knew that we had computers at the house, so I wasn't too stressed that my GPU died. So that's what ended up happening. I ended up Googling it and looking it up, and it was a GPU. And if you guys know what a GPU is, it's a graphics card in your computer, and it's responsible for displaying and rendering out videos and photos on your screen and making sure that they look proper. And apps like Adobe Premiere Pro, when we're color grading, are really GPU intensive, which means it's hard on the computer. And so if your GPU is not up to scratch or it's not working, then you're going to have a lot of trouble color grading. So that's basically what happened to us. The GPU died and we couldn't color grade.
And color grading, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically just adjusting the colors, tweaking the colors to have that stylized effect, to really kind of, it's like the icing on the cake, the final touches on a video project.
I thought, we're fine. Chris has a PC. It's super powerful. I'll just use that. Everything is good. So we have one external hard drive that we use basically for travel. Chris uses it for his computer because he only has a 512 gigabyte drive, and a lot of these files are massive. So we use an external drive. I grab the external drive, plug it in the computer, I transfer a 265 gigabyte project file over to the hard drive, and the hard drive dies. This is the only one and only external hard drive we have in this
How many
house.
days till deadline?
3.
Okay. And we have multiple, I guess all of our RAID towers that we talked about before, those are all technically external hard drives.
Right.
But they're formatted as a software RAID configuration that's only compatible with Apple. So we tried to plug it into my PC laptop just to see if it would work, and it didn't recognize it, of course. So it's not like we could just plug them in there and just continue to work. So that was the issue.
Yeah. So RAID wasn't compatible with the PC. Our external drive was dead. My Mac Pro was dead. So I had no way to edit this project on Chris's PC. So my last resort was my 2018 MacBook Pro, which I thought when I bought it was going to be a game changer because everybody said the MacBook Pro is really good for editing. Guess what?
Not for 4K.
It's not for 4K, and definitely not for like GoPro footage and DJI, like drone footage.
Yeah, HEVC wreaks havoc on it.
Yeah, doesn't work. So here I am, 13-inch MacBook Pro, got the RAID
Which
plugged in.
at least it would work with the RAID tower.
It works with the
so
RAID
you could
tower,
access
so-
all the files well.
I was able to open the project, and the project is really complicated. I don't know what it is about this like CineScope aspect ratio, but it fucking like it is a nightmare to work in for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the ratio. It could be the ratio.
Every project I've ever used with that ratio, I've had issues with.
But every project you've used that ratio for have always been the most complex projects that you've ever done.
Yeah, that's
Reference
true.
Cold Island.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very complex project.
Very
Lots of stuff going on.
Lots
so
of
it could just be
layers.
that. But with that said,
could be, yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, so I plug in the RAID, open the project, has to be rendered, playing back at 8th quality, not doing so great. She's struggling, but I'm getting by through the color grading. So I'm color grading. I realize that my monitor's not calibrated. So I break out the Spider 3, which is old, to calibrate my monitor.
That was from like 2015.
Yeah.
That was back right when everything was jumping to from 32-bit to 64-bit. Mm-hmm. And now the software is no longer supported.
Correct. So not
Classic.
only is the software not supported, I finally find old drivers that I can boot up this thing and manage to get through the calibration. However,
you found old drivers like in an old download folder.
in an old
somewhere.
download folder, except for the disk. Remember disks?
Yeah.
was missing from the case where the spider was with our license key on it.
Oh, with the serial number.
Serial number and the licensing key. So anyway, I ended up finding that in like an old email, which was like, so this took me hours. Like this is 3 days before this is due. I have no calibrated monitor. My video's not color graded. My computer is slow as shit. I get the monitor calibrated finally after fucking around with it for a few hours. And then I realized that the 13-inch display is really small. When you're color grading, like when I'm color grading, I have my program window up. I have my scopes up. I have my parade up. I have my Lumetri color panel on the side. I've got like multiple adjustment layers and stuff. So 13 inches is, when you're used to two 27-inch displays, 13 inches struggling. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just plug my monitor in. Like,
It's not
no
the
big deal.
size, Becky.
What?
It's not the size, Becky.
Anyway, so I was like, I'll just plug my monitor in, whatever. Monitor doesn't work. I tried dongles. I tried cables.
Dongles on dongles on dongles.
Nothing worked.
Oh my
I was like, fuck this. I'm done with
Meanwhile,
this.
you're like 2 days from the deadline, and you haven't made any progress.
No progress. And I was like, I don't even know how long it's going to take to export this.
And you're charting how slow you're going with the slow computer, and you're realizing, I'm not going to make my deadline.
Yeah. So I'm panicking. So I go and order like a Lacy drive for Chris's computer because I thought if I can get this drive here tomorrow or the next day, that gives me like 12 hours to transfer everything over, color grade on Chris's computer, export it, and we're good to go. So I order the drive. The next day, I get a notification that I used the wrong card. I basically had an old card that was that had gotten canceled because of fraudulent activity. And so the payment didn't go through. Therefore, the Lacy drive did not get shipped. So I was like, I'm fucked. So during all of this time, we decided, shag this. We're going to order the Mac Pro.
Right.
So we're like two.
So you ordered this a couple days before this.
It was like 2 or 3 days before. And we're like,
Yeah.
we'll just order the Mac Pro. We'll get the rough cut out. And then when it comes, we'll be able to finish the whole video, no issues. So we order the Mac Pro. We finally order the Lacy drive. It's on its way. So I'm trying to basically finalize this rough cut, kind of half graded, but it's, it's a rough cut, so it's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. So suddenly I get a kernel panic.
Is this on your laptop?
On my laptop, my Mac laptop. So a kernel panic, what that looks like, it's basically like the blue screen of death for Windows is like a black screen of death on Apple. It's like you get like the big black screen with the big gray power logo and it says your computer restarted because of a problem and it's in a bunch of different languages. Kernel panic, 5 times in a row. And I was like, I'm going to fucking die. I had the most craziest rage headache I've ever had in my entire life for an entire week. It was all computer related. So I had the kernel panic. So I'm like, I'm fucked. So I was like, well, all I can do now at this point is like update everything, update Premiere, update my, like any software updates I could do. But I wasn't about to update to Catalina because I knew that I was going to have issues. So I was hanging out on High Sierra, thank God. Updated everything, restarted the computer, left it alone, opened the project, left it, walked away from it for like 5 hours because I was dying. Came back and managed to get it to a point where it was like looking like a video, rough kind
Something
of.
acceptable for a rough cut.
It was fine for a rough cut. So I export the video from my 13-inch MacBook Pro. It took 2 hours and 45 minutes. And don't forget, we're doing 2 videos as well. So both videos had to be exported. The Lacy drive shows up. So I'm fine now because I know at least I have a Lacy drive. Is it even called Lacy?
I don't know. I always thought it was Lakai, but I've heard people say Lacy.
Okay, well, whatever. The orange drives. Transfer the 256 gigabyte entire file folder onto the hard drive, open it up on Chris's computer. Of course, there's files missing because they're on the other RAID thing. So I had to go back and forth and I'm transferring files over and it's a freaking mess. It takes me like a day to because for
consolidate the project.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the package files thing
project
in Premiere,
manager in Premiere doesn't work.
Yeah. This happens, but I'm like feeling good because I'm like, okay, I can work on this on Chris's computer for the meantime. Mac Pro is going to be here in like 2 days. I'm tracking my Mac Pro. This is like a week before the videos go up. I'm tracking my Mac Pro and it says delivery by end of day. So I'm feeling good because I've got like 5 days now. By the time the computer gets here at the end of the day, I get it set up. I get all my apps in. I get everything transferred over. I got like 4 or 5 days to finalize this video on my new computer. Best kind. So Wednesday comes and goes and the computer doesn't show up. Delivery by end of day turns into, what was it? Scheduled delivery?
No, it says delivery date not available. And then the Apple page said delivery soon.
The package says it's in Buffalo. It's been scanned in Buffalo twice. And I watched the UPS truck drive up and down the street and not stop at our house on the day of delivery. So we reach out to UPS. UPS is like, that package was never out for delivery. And I was like, what? Where is my Mac Pro? I just dropped like 11 grand on a computer and it's lost in Buffalo somewhere. So, and I have 2 videos that are due in like 5 days.
Oh yeah, when I saw it, then there was an exclamation point that appeared next to it saying, we're attempting to locate your package. I was like, oh my God, your package got stolen.
At this point, I'm stressed as fuck, but I'm also laughing because I knew that something like that was going to happen. Watch now, that's going to get lost, and it did get lost. So freaking out. So I'm trying to finish this video. I've got the Lacy drive. I'm color grading on your PC, which was a joy, actually. It was very nice to work on.
That was a lifesaver, that computer.
I'm so happy we had that computer because I would have been fucked. In the meantime, we ended up reaching out to Apple to see what they could do so we could start like a claim, basically, because
And at this point,
missing.
they had no idea where it was.
No, it was missing for 3 days at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, there's no, it's like, do we just wait and wait and wait? Like, at what point do you pull the trigger and say, look, you need to send us a new computer?
Right.
And even if, let's say, they decided, yes, it was missing, but we're gonna issue a new one, they would then have to build a new computer, which would take a week,
Yeah.
plus ship it to us, which may take up to another week.
Right.
So you're looking at another 2 weeks, and we'd be way past our deadline then.
Yeah.
So we called the Apple Store, and we're like,
This is Friday now. We're
Yeah.
calling the Apple Store because Wednesday, it was Thursday, Friday
right.
afternoon, we
Oh,
called the Apple Store.
it was July 4th. No,
No, it was July 3rd.
Yeah.
You call and you were off that day. So you called
Right.
the Apple Store because I was having a fucking freak out because
Yeah.
I was losing my shit. Stress.
Right.
talk
And
about
they
it.
worked with us. They were very
They were-
accommodating.
They were very
Patrick at the Walden Galleria Apple Store.
shout out, man.
Yeah, very helpful. He was
Super.
basically just like, yeah, we'll just loan you one of our iMacs if that, do you think that? Because I told him, we were like, look, we have this deadline that's basically over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping to have this computer that was supposed to be delivered earlier the week, which is now going into the weekend, a long holiday weekend. We have no setup here that can make this work.
Yeah,
We
like
go-
we were using your laptop.
we have
which
a
was
laptop.
fine,
Yeah.
but like that was just for we had only transferred over one video.
This
we did
was a
not do the other.
temporizing measure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to transfer over the video and make sure you have all the files, it's just a nuisance.
Yeah.
When you've already got all the files available on your RAID tower. So he was good. He said, okay, well, how about if we lend you an iMac Pro?
Yeah, he basically said like you have to pay for it, but you can return it for full refund, no problem.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is the best one we have at the store." It was like a $5,000 iMac Pro.
Yeah, 5,100 and change.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, like that's a solution. So we drive out to the Galleria. I like to call it the Diarrhea Mall, by the way. Remember that shoes video? It's just shoes.
Yeah.
Get some shit. Galleria, diarrhea. Do you remember that
That's
part?
why you think
That's why I
about
call
that.
it Diarrhea Mall.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The Galleria, that's like a common just term.
Well, it's
Like
diarrhea
there's
now.
the Galleria
Ouch.
Mall in Houston, Texas was the big mall.
You mean Diarrhea Mall?
Sure.
Yeah. So we drive out to the Diarrhea Mall and we pick up the iMac Pro. And this is Saturday. No, this is Friday now. So Friday, we talk to Patrick. We get the iMac Pro from the Diarrhea Mall. We get it home. I just finish what I'm doing on your computer. I finish the video on your computer. I
You
still
got
have
all the
another
color
video
grading
to do.
done.
Get the color grading done. I still have the second video to finish. So we're doing 2 videos. So the next day is July 4th, Saturday. We have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to finish the videos because we want to get the files uploaded and to them by Monday daytime, not Tuesday morning, the day of
Right.
the upload.
And just before we move on, you could have edited all that on my computer, but you being very familiar with Apple shortcuts and just the slight interface differences are more efficient on an Apple computer.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could have done it on my laptop because the hardware's fast enough speed-wise, but it's just your familiarity with OS, with the Apple OS.
Right. Yeah. The kind of silver lining to this was that we actually got to try this iMac Pro out and really, because that's kind of the point of the story, is that we ended up getting the iMac Pro for a week and a half. We set it up. And after the videos were done and published and out into the world, we actually got to do some tests to see how it stacked up once the Mac Pro arrived, which it finally did.
Well, you got to, so the Mac Pro finally arrives like a few days later.
Yeah, it was
We
like
get it
it
all
was
set up.
6 or 7 days late.
Right. But you got to try, realistically, you tried 5 computers in a very short period of time,
Yeah,
including your old Mac Pro.
correct.
Yeah. You tried your Mac Pro, your old MacBook Pro, my laptop, the iMac Pro, and then your new Mac Pro. So you kind of have an idea of where all those pieces of hardware fall.
Yeah,
So the 2013 Mac Pro obviously is garbage now.
yep.
The 2018 MacBook Pro is even slower.
It's even slower than the 2013 Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Which I guess that makes sense because there's way more cores and we have way more RAM. And
Now you've be able to compare, I guess, of the three modern computers, my laptop from last year, which is a Razer Blade 15 with NVIDIA
2080 graphics card.
2080 RTX Studio graphics card.
Correct. Not Studio Edition. It's RTX.
Okay. So that compared with the iMac Pro with the Radeon, it had a 16 gig Radeon graphics card in it.
Yeah, it's not the same type of graphics card we have in the Mac Pro, but it was
the Mac Pro one is the Radeon Pro Vega 2 with 32 gigs of RAM,
Correct.
single GPU.
Yeah.
But yeah, comparing them all, like how'd you find them all stacked up?
Yeah, I mean your PC was really fast to edit on. I had a little bit of a bottleneck. What I'm thinking is just going over through like the hard drive with the USB. I think the RAID towers are just faster.
Could be, but if you stop playing stuff like that, I do find that my laptop lags a little bit. I think that it's still a lot of the encode decode functions of viewing compressed video files is still handled by the internal processor.
Right.
So I think that might be a rate limiting step because I think the GPU is like a lot higher. It's proportionally, I think the GPU is like maxed way out compared to the rest of the specs in that computer. Because the rest of the specs in the computer, it's got a pretty standard processor, and the RAM I think is like, it's like 16 gigs of RAM, which isn't a whole lot compared to your 196 gigs.
192. Well, I guess like surface level, what I found was like working on your laptop, it was pretty fast, didn't drop a lot of frames, could pretty much play back 4K unrendered full quality, had a few drop frames. I dropped it down to half, just faster. Just mouse, everything felt faster with it. The screen is really sharp. The colors look really good. It's really nice. And the 15-inch is way more usable than a 13-inch.
You're looking at, it's 2 inches bigger in a diagonal measurement, but the real improvement is the screen real estate from the higher pixel density, because this is a 4K display, so you're getting a full 4K resolution on your display, so everything can be smaller and still you can pack more in.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I could just pack more in. So that was nice. The keyboard commands were really challenging, and I don't know how to use Windows at all, so I only stayed in Premiere, and it was fine. But like, actually, I did like, when you go Alt-Tab and you get the I like how all the screens come up and it's not just the icons. That's kind of cool. But we're not talking about Windows. We're talking about performance. So that was cool. Like, color grading was really fast. The iMac Pro was surprisingly good. I was impressed by it, actually. I thought it was going to be worse than it was, but I was happy to see that it can't, like, I felt like it stacked up to its Pro name. I did have a couple of issues that I was having on my 2013 Mac Pro. Kind of like sometimes what would happen is like I'd play back footage, 4K, full quality, unrendered, and I'd hit play and it would play, and then I'd hit stop and it wouldn't stop. It would just keep playing for like a long period of time, and then it would stop. It was like there was a lag between.
Like your computer had to catch up.
Yeah, and that happened a lot on the Mac Pro. 2013 Mac Pro, which used to drive me bonkers. I used to get rageful and like hit the keyboard. That was happening on the iMac Pro, which pissed me off. Like, it shouldn't have been happening.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I was able to pretty much play back full quality unrendered 4K minus a few drop frames here and
there.
there.
Did that happen on my laptop?
Yeah, it did. I think once.
Okay,
or
so
twice.
Would you say that the iMac Pro and my laptop were of similar performance?
I think your laptop played back footage better. I don't know. Are you able to shuttle fast forward on your computer? Because I couldn't really shuttle well on the iMac Pro.
I can go like 1 or 2 clicks.
Yeah, that's what you could go 1 click or 2 clicks and then it was done.
But not on GoPro footage.
No. My new Mac Pro, I can go like 4x speed and at full quality 4K unrendered, and
that's excellent.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like, the iMac Pro and my laptop are probably of similar usability.
I think the iMac Pro would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I think I still would have been frustrated with some of it. And I never got to, it's like my biggest gripe with my old computer was that I couldn't have Lightroom and Premiere open at the same time. I couldn't even have Premiere and Chrome open at the same time. And there's a lot of times where I come back up, I dump my cards in Lightroom, I have Chrome open, I'm looking for music, and then I got Premiere open because I want to edit while I'm dumping cards because I'm waiting for my cards to dump. So I got to do something. Might as well edit.
Yeah.
Could never do that.
No,
and
that would lock the system up.
Yeah.
Dumping for some reason, which doesn't really make any sense because, and I always thought it was like you're writing to the disk, therefore you're unable to access files simultaneously.
Yeah.
But that's not the case because you're using the same RAID towers now, which all have very big, high transfer speeds, read and write speeds.
Right.
And now you can dump and do stuff.
So when I was looking for a computer, I wanted something that was powerful enough for that. So like day to day, maybe the Mac Pro that I got might be more powerful than just for normal video editing, but for multitasking, that's what I was looking for. I want a computer that will be able to handle that stuff. The iMac Pro, I'm not 100% sure. I had a couple of things open and it was kind of fine, but like I think in a couple of years, even if we ever shot raw footage or ever did anything 8K,
It's not future-proof.
it's not future-proof. No. So I guess like for the time being, maybe for the next couple of years, it'd be fine, but
Yeah, and who knows where that goes? Like, who knows if a company will come out or whatever camera you're using will start shooting ProRes RAW or ProRes, and we start shooting that, and then all of a sudden we get the Afterburner card that can improve,
Exactly.
offload a lot of those tasks to that. So I think you have a lot more options with the Mac Pro.
yeah. Well, like you said, like you can upgrade it too, right? Which is nice. Like it's customizable.
Yeah,
I think the iMac Pro might be, but obviously, like when you can open up your full computer and
Yeah.
see everything,
installing that RAM was very easy
so easy
on the Mac Pro.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
literally just take the facade, the shell off, pop the old RAM out, put the new RAM in.
One issue I did see with the iMac Pro was the contrast on the screen that we could not get rid of.
Oh yeah,
Remember
I feel like
that?
that was like a. It was like
I don't know if it was like a Catalina thing. I think it was like a P3 display.
something about the wide gamut messed with everything, and I think people were having issues with it online.
Yeah.
But that was like dated way back last year.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there were any like solutions for it,
I'm
which
not sure
is like
if a hardware calibrator would have fixed it, because that's something else we couldn't use the Spider 3
right.
because Catalina operating system dropped all support for old 32-bit apps. Like
So we had to go buy another calibrator.
I know, yeah. So then, yeah,
This has been a very expensive month for us.
it has been a very expensive one.
And now the A7S III is rumored to come out at the end of the month.
Oh my
Like,
God.
fuck, I need more, make more money.
There you go. We also did render tests too.
We did, yeah.
Before we took the iMac back today.
Are we going to talk about the results of that?
We took the film, the Vancouver film that we did, which was like a 10-minute and some second film.
Yeah, this is the same film that took 2 hours and 40 minutes to export from my MacBook Pro.
Right, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Very complex project, multiple adjustment layers, multiple
cuts,
Yep,
multiple layers of
motion
sound,
graphics,
motion graphics,
all sorts
titles.
of stuff. Yeah, in various media, and it took on the best performing computer was the Mac Pro. No,
The new Mac Pro.
the new Mac Pro. No surprise there. What was it, like 11 minutes 15 seconds for the new Mac Pro. So a little bit slower than real time, but it was a fairly complex project.
Yeah.
The next was the Razer Blade 15, my laptop from last year, and price point is $3,000.
Right.
And that was 13 minutes 23 seconds. So just about 2 minutes slower, which is not a lot.
No.
And then the iMac Pro came in last at 14 minutes 14 seconds.
Yeah, and that's the $5,000
And that's
computer.
$5,100.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the best value is the PC, hands down,
I think so too.
because you're getting middle of the road. It came in second, but it's the cheapest by far.
Yeah, you're getting a big-ish display, high resolution, touch screen, portability, but you're giving up the operating system for Windows.
Right.
And you're giving up some other things too.
if you're used to using Windows and you're fine with it, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But like when I switched over to that, I still to this day have not been able to get Betaflight to recognize my FPV drones.
Yeah.
I still use your Mac laptop because you plug things in, it just works. I've tried reinstalling the USB drivers. I've tried all these driver fixes. I spent hours on it, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. That's the thing with me too. Like I'm not overly interested in spending time tinkering with my computers. Like I
Yeah.
just want them to work.
Time is money.
And I'm not familiar with Windows really. Like the last time I even built anything was in college. We had to like put RAM and stuff in computers and we worked on PCs and stuff. But that was in 2007. So things have changed. But I just want something to work. And I know everyone talks about workflow and you can get used to Windows and stuff. But like I travel with an Apple laptop. I've got an Apple desktop. I've got a Mac Mini as like a server. I use iPhones.
Yeah, you're vested in the system.
I'm vested in the system, and I know everyone talks about AirDrop, but like honestly, AirDrop. I use AirDrop multiple times a day, sending photos and files back and forth from my computer to my phone or from one computer to another computer. It just, to give that up alone.
Yeah. Well,
would
I mean,
be-
I've networked your computer with my computer, so I know how to transfer all those files.
Right.
And I've gotten Snapdrop to work finally. The issue was that I was using a shared hardwired internet connection from your computer, which was messing with
got it.
Snapdrop finding
I just don't want to learn how to. I don't want to have to relearn how to use
yeah.
a computer. You know what I
Fair
mean?
enough.
Like,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's just at
And
this
so if
point.
that premium is worth it to you, then great.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's definitely the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But the iMac Pro worked really well. I mean, still, you're talking about 14 minutes versus,
Yeah,
was
you're
it
getting
11
you're
minutes?
getting a 27-inch monitor. It's like a small footprint. It looks cute on your
Yeah.
desk, and it's fast.
The Razer Blade was 13 minutes, 23 seconds. The iMac Pro was 14 minutes, 14 seconds. So 1 minute render difference. The iMac Pro, great computer, half the cost, less than half the cost of the Mac Pro. And you're comparing 14-minute render time to 11-minute render time.
Yeah, no, we didn't try multitasking, like rendering out
No.
360 footage or anything like that.
And I think we've said it before, probably on the vlog, that render times are not everything. You render a video like once or twice a week, and it's 2 or 3 minutes difference once or twice a week. Doesn't really add up to a whole lot, but what it does represent, it's a surrogate for how everything else works too. The user interface was just snappier. You could edit faster on the Mac Pro, and everything's that much faster. So if you can improve your entire workflow by like 15%, speed-wise, that's worth something.
Yeah, for sure. We must have been talking for 2 hours.
We are at 1 hour, 11 minutes.
All right.
So I think we beat that topic to death.
Yeah. The moral of the story is buy the best computer that you can afford.
He is that you can afford.
And stop hating on women in tech. Stop abusing
or
women
young
in-
people.
Or young people.
Or people who look young, sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes I just want to talk about tech and camera gear with dudes, and sometimes I think dudes don't want to talk to me about that stuff.
Well, maybe they don't. So should we finish this episode up with a round of That's Deadly?
Hell yes. That's
We haven't done that in
friggin'
a while.
deadly.
That's friggin'
It's
deadly.
been a while. We're really bad at being consistent on this podcast,
I
by the
know.
way. Two.
Our whole brand is being inconsistent, though.
Yes, true. Good excuse.
Our brand is inconsistency. Okay, so that's friggin' deadly for me.
I know what it is. Do you remember?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. Hold on, don't tell me. You're doing a dead face?
Yeah, dead. New Orleans.
Oh, yes.
Voodoo.
I know. Okay. All right, so that's freaking I'll tell you a little story here. We won't drag this out because it's already
Please
been
tell
over
me a
an
story.
hour.
Do it in that voice.
The story is
Yes.
I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
This is at the hospital
Okay.
in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking through the hospital, hungry,
Are you wearing your nice tight ass scrubs?
ass scrubs. Yes, I'm wearing
You look great in
my
those.
normal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um,
Were you wearing a scrub cap?
Yes, with skulls on it.
Twite.
So I'm walking through the hospital, hungry because I forgot my lunch.
What
again.
happened to the voice?
What do you mean? This is the same
You were
voice.
doing it the voice.
Okay, the voice. Walking through the hospital, hungry because I forgot my lunch.
I can't hear you.
And then I see the vending machine that has snacks in it.
Dun, dun, dun.
The snack vending machine.
Wait. The snack vending machine.
Yes.
What's the other alternative?
The beverage vending machine.
Oh, the Pepsi machine.
Yes. The Pepsi, the Kleenex machine. But there's multiple brands of tissues. Why you call it the Kleenex machine? That's my comparison. So the snack vending machine, first slot, A0. I'll always remember you because it's the first time I tried it.
Okay.
I locked eyes with the bag. It was all black with metallic voodoo dolls on it. And it was New Orleans voodoo style chips. Never seen this before. They don't have this in Canada.
They don't have it in the grocery store here either.
Only noticed it in this vending machine. I was like, what the hell is that? So I was intrigued because all I could see was New Orleans voodoo style. So I was like, I have to have it. I have to try it.
You're really brave. See, you're like adventurous with your flavors. You like to try a new chip flavor. I'd always go tried and true because, like, what if you spend your $1.50 and you buy the chips and they suck?
That's the difference between you and I. We've talked about this before with when we're eating out at restaurants. You will always go with tried
Chicken
and true
nuggets.
because you always think of the worst case scenario where what if I spend my money on something that's not as good as what I know is good?
That's what I was worried about the Mac Pro.
Right. But me, I'm always looking at glass half full. I'm like, what if I spend what if there's an alternative out there that's better than what I always get and I'll never know about that better alternative?
Have you been really disappointed before?
Yeah. But you know what?
What?
I now have the best snacks
You don't,
ever.
You don't feel like you've like wasted an opportunity to eat something delicious when you get something
life to
shit?
the fullest. That's why you and I are good compliments to each other.
Yeah, I keep you like from doing some real crazy shit. And you make me more adventurous.
But you know what?
What?
Buying voodoo chips was not one of those things.
No.
And
was
it
the right
paid
call.
off. Hit the jackpot. Tried it. It's the perfect blend of barbecue with
Mm-hmm.
salt and vinegar and just maybe cheese. Maybe, I
All
don't know.
dressed.
It's like all dressed, but different.
All dressed chips are Canadian chips, but recently I've been seeing them in America, except for not recently. They're delicious if you ever get the chance to try all dressed chips.
They're pretty good. So companion to this,
Mm-hmm.
I was so tickled by the voodoo chips that I bought like 4 bags then and brought them home to you
You did.
to try them. And you, of course, love them
They're
too.
delicious.
Yeah, so then
also,
we-
the bag is cool.
Yeah. So then we went online and ordered a big sampler pack from what's the brand name called?
Zapp's.
Yeah. So this is not sponsored.
sponsored.
Actually, I'm pretty sure one of my buddies messaged me saying like, was that a sponsored post? Did you sell your soul for a carton of chips? I'm like, no, I bought these chips. I would say if it was a sponsored post.
Yeah. By the way, if you ever watch any of our videos and you're thinking it's sponsored, if we don't disclose it, it's not sponsored. We will always disclose if we've been given a product or paid for a product or for anything.
There you go.
Right.
So we bought a sampler pack, but we made sure to buy the sampler pack that had at least
voodoo in it.
1/5 of the samples as voodoo.
Yeah.
Because they're awesome. And
Yeah,
wouldn't
we
you
wanted to
know-
have the voodoo
Wouldn't you
because we
know,
want to have a little sample.
a whole friggin' carton of them showed up.
No voodoo.
No voodoo. And you know what wasn't friggin' deadly? The fact that there was no voodoo.
You know what was freaking deadly?
Don't say plain.
Plain chips were really good.
Don't say plain.
Dude, they were really good plain chips.
No.
All the flavors were really good.
Oh,
The salt and
no.
vinegar was really good.
It's Reason for Divorce
Hey,
likes
lightning bug.
plain chips.
Listen,
Anyway, so that's
can
that's friggin' deadly.
But listen, you said reason for divorce, but Chris, we bought that big box of plain chips, big box of chips. Who would eat the leftovers that you don't want?
The garbage can.
This is the best part.
So what's
is that
your-
I
what's
eat
your
the ones
friggin'
that you
deadly?
don't like.
Okay.
My friggin' deadly is a poncho that I bought. It's a blanket poncho. It's called a camp poncho. It's from REI. Not sponsored. I pay for it. Last year, my friend Lindsay sent me a picture of this poncho and said, I need this. And I said, I need this. But I didn't buy it because it was kind of expensive. I have been thinking about it for 1 year. And then it was like Google, or not Google, but it was like whatever bot trolls your shit for like ads and stuff. It's like it embedded into my brain. It was like, oh, remember last year when you liked this poncho? Bitch, here it is on Facebook. And I was like, oh my God, I have to have it. So I bought it and it's incredible. It's basically like a quilted blanket, but it's a poncho and it snaps up at the neck and it has a hood and it has these like arm handles. It comes
Arm
down.
handles?
Yeah, it comes down past my legs. It's friggin' deadly. And it's gray and like this like mushroomy, creamy color
Something
on
you
the
take out
inside.
to the woods.
Something you take out to the woods next to a fire or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I bought it for myself. And then I bought my mom and my sister one for their birthdays because it's cold in Newfoundland and I figured they'd like it. For
Have they got
everyone.
them yet?
Yeah, Spy. They got them. My sister, she goes out in her hammock with it on all the time with
That's
the fire
great.
and that. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
it's good
I
for
think
out in the woods.
I think that we've dragged this on for long enough.
I just like talking to you.
I as well.
Also, this environment is,
Yeah, so let's
Fantastic.
revisit the environment now because
You
we
know
started the podcast with describe the environment.
you know
and
what's deadly in this environment?
Yeah, so since we started the podcast, it is now pitch black at night. We've still
It's
got the
currently
fire.
10:34 p.m.
We still got the fire. We still got the lanterns.
Mm-hmm.
But something else we've noticed is I look out to the dark yard, and there's lightning
Lightning
bugs,
bugs.
or as people also call them,
Louis the lightning bug.
not Larry the lightning bug that you said the other day,
Lewis.
Lewis the lightning bug.
What else do they call them? Larry?
They call them fireflies.
Oh yeah, fireflies. I never seen fireflies in my life till I moved here.
Yeah, they're magical, aren't
I
they?
thought they were fake. I didn't think they were a real thing.
No, they're real. They're real.
Yeah, well, clearly, look at them.
Yeah. it's
There's
lovely.
one right there behind you a few minutes ago.
Magical. All right, so with that, I think we'll end it here.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening,
Yeah,
and hopefully you enjoyed this rant about tech and other things.
yeah. And if you have any suggestions for topics, hit us up on Twitter at Becky and Chris. Just tweet us and be like, hey, motherfuckers, you guys should talk about this thing on the podcast.
That's exactly how they should say it.
Yeah, my swearing gets worse as the night goes on.
True.
All right.
All right, let's end it.
See you in the next one.